Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Cloak and Dagger. A great episode. I love how they structured this episode in a sense of like, first you kind of get both of them meeting together after, like the series premiere, the second part of the series premiere ended. And you see them meet, and then all of a sudden it's like they divide, and the story's kind of reflecting it. It goes from Tandy, then it goes back to the beginning, then it shows you Ty's side of the story, and then it kind of flips back and forth. I think that's going to be an interesting aspect of the show because they probably aren't going to be together all the time. Like there's always going to be breaking between them, probably like two separate stories, but their stories will probably always come back together because they have that connection. I think that's going to be such a neat approach to the show. I mean, that's at least what I'm feel like going, like, just based on these 3 episodes so far. So first of all, a lot of interesting things. One, Tandy, it seems like she flew out of the car because last time we saw her, she was in the car, but when Ty went over to the car, she was flown and thrown out of it. So that was pretty brutal. I was like, that's crazy. I wonder, like, because she summoned her daggers. I doubt that really did anything, but I don't know if that helped or not. That's kind of, I mean, she's okay. Like, I don't know if they have any healing capabilities with their powers or not. I think maybe they do. I don't know. It hasn't really come up yet, so they might not. Like I said, I don't know that much about Cloak and Dagger. I don't know if their powers have any healing do they have any healing factors themselves? Nevertheless, Tandy's side of the story is just like, I still need to get the hell out of town. Car's messed up. She goes back home. What did surprise me is the fact that her mom did have her back. Like the moment she saw Tandy was hurt, she's like, what's going on? What kind of trouble did you get into? But her mom lied to Detective O'Reilly and said, like, no, my daughter's not here. But Detective O'Reilly isn't stupid. Like, she pieced a lot of that stuff together already. But the dude, rich kid, didn't want to say anything. Because he can't turn Tandy in without admitting why she was in that situation in the first place. Because there's too much evidence, to scratch on his face and everything. He's just like, no. It wasn't even like that. I didn't see my attacker or whatever. It's like, oh, it was a guy? It's like, yeah. It's like, what about scratch marks? Those are defensive marks. I should probably rest. And it's like, yeah, Detective O'Reilly's kind of figured it all out. It makes you wonder, is that why she got Liam? Because we still haven't got back to, well, I guess she got Liam for the money that they stole. So maybe that was it. I mean, she probably knew that Liam was the key to getting towards Tandy anyway. Maybe that's how she found out more about where to potentially go looking for Tandy, because she didn't look for Tandy until, like, she had Tandy's identity last episode, like, oh, like, this is the girl I'm looking for, but it wasn't until after she got arrested Liam, that she eventually went to Tandy's house and everything. Like I said, it was kind of a neat moment where her mom was kind of like, nope, Tandy's not here. But O'Reilly was kind of like, yeah, I think your daughter was a victim of the situation, so I just want to protect her and help her out. Also, her lawyer boyfriend kicking in, he's like, yeah, need a warrant to come in here, don't you, and stuff. So it's like, oh, man, like, even though things are kind of shitty, like, yeah, her mom's still kind of her back, so she ran. And she's trying to decide to leave. All at the same time, you have Ty dealing with his situation too, because for him, I was like, oh man, is he praying to God? I was like, no, he's talking to Billy, his brother. Like, what do I do? He's like, I'm so angry, and I feel, he feels lost. He doesn't know what to do. Like, he, misses his brother so much, but it's like on some level, part of him is like, is it you? Like, wherever you are, did you give me these powers? Like, he doesn't know what's going on, so Vida kind of helps him out and everything, takes him to her aunt after the Marie LeBeau situation. Like, she kind of dealt with curses and stuff like that. Basically, you make a wish. Vida never did say later on what it was exactly she wished for. She had wished for something previously, but she never said what it was. So, but the thing is, like, his auntie's kind of, and she said something I didn't necessarily get, because both of them end up in kind of like this in-between kind of trance state. And she says, like, oh, you can either get knocked upside the head or you can take this bath. She's like, I think the bath would be the more appropriate. Or it's like, oh, they have to go foraging for these ingredients or something? It's like, no, you just go to Whole Foods and get them. So I thought that's pretty neat. I also love the fact that he had to sneak a girl into his room for those situations. And kind of embarrassing because he kind of had to get butt naked in front of her to kind of do this whole situation, kind of do the bath and everything. So, but what I thought was interesting, because it wasn't until partway through it that I was like, oh man, it's like, oh, I guess all they have to do is concentrate, because Tandy got there, and I was like, oh right, what did she say? Get knocked upside the head. And it's like, what happened to Tandy? Tandy got a concussion. So it seems like there are 2 ways about going about this. Obviously, Ty went about the more like easier route. Tandy kind of went about it kind of the harder route. I mean, that wasn't intentional anyway. But I wonder, is it just I feel like it's probably more so because of their abilities that kind of led to that. Because, like I said, they've got that kind of psychic, like, empath ability where they can kind of tell what's, like, it's almost telekinetic, but also empathetic in a sense of, like, they can, like, I guess once, like I said, more so read people's hearts. And I guess that combined with, like, them kind of being in respective situations. So I don't like, it's a thing of like, is it actually a little bit of magic kind of taking you to the spiritual realm, or, you know, on a spiritual level, or is it more so their abilities kicking in, that this is just kind of like the bath and the concussion are just, they kind of open the doorway, but their powers actually get them through, is what I'm kind of wondering about. And so I thought it was kind of a nice comparison, once again, the back and forth, like Tandy's in a bright lit area with a younger Ty. Ty's in a dark place with it's nighttime, and he's with a younger Tandy. It's also interesting too because it's at different points in time. Like, because Tandy, when she was on the bus, it was nighttime. When Ty was with Vida, I would assume it was still. I mean, I don't know, you know, time frames and stuff like that. So, well, because I am forgetting the fact is the stories do take place at different times. So by the time they went to Ty's place, it was probably already nighttime anyway. But it's just kind of interesting to me how that works. I mean, it's still kind of, it's nice aesthetically, like when they both kind of go to the other side. And it seems that basically they were helping each other out. It seems like it's a combination of what each one of them is dealing with. Like in Tandy's case, when she was talking, like trying to talk to Ty, like, he's there with his brother. It's that whole situation where everything kind of fell apart all those years ago. And his brother, rather than going, stayed with him. So I guess in his mind, in his heart, that's what he wished things kind of went down. Like, oh, my brother was just with me. He wasn't with his friends. Then maybe I wouldn't have, you know, just probably all the what ifs about that situation. So, but the other big thing was Ty, because he has revenge in his heart. We know that, going after the cop who killed his brother. And when it was all said and done, like, he tries all these different things, all these different weapons, but in the end, they didn't work. And Tammy's trying to stop him because it's like every time he tries a different weapon, he's going after the cop, trying to kill the cop, but it doesn't work out like that. It always ends up badly, like the cops coming after him, kind of probably like a repeat of his brother's situation. So his way of handling, you know, getting his revenge that way doesn't help. What happened was Tandy telling him there has to be another way. She summons her dagger and places it on the table. I was like, oh, well, that's going to be interesting. I was like, my brain went, oh, I guess it makes sense because it's a weapon that can't really be traced back to you, I guess, because in Tandy's case it came, but it's like, no, it turns into cups. It's about giving the other, like I said, it's like a yin yang situation where it's kind of like adding a little different perspective to their situation. And so what they ended up turning into handcuffs, kind of representing like the other way is like, you don't have to kill him, get him arrested for the stuff he does. That's how you get justice in the long run. But on the other side of things, you had Ty with Tandy, and she's basically watched, I can only assume, La Roxanne Corporation, like his dad's tied down in water being poor. Because honestly, like, Roxanne kind of made life hard for their family, because after what went down, the way Roxanne kind of cast the family aside and just like, oh, blaming Nathan for everything that went wrong. So, you know, what that meant for what it meant for Tandy's mom and everything, and just their life, it just made everything harder. And she's there watching it, and she constantly runs away. Like it's her situation too. Her biggest problem, she runs away from everything. At one point, her mom's there, and she keeps running and running. Ty's like, what do you expect to find on the other side? It doesn't like, and I guess it's almost, you know, symbolic too, because you have her there falling into the mud pit, trying to climb out, and she's just sinking, because it's what it feels like. She's just sinking further and further. And then you had that moment where like he's using his power and he stops her in place, and it's like there has to be a different way. She summons her light dagger and she touches the glass, and that was kind of the end of that for them. But then each one of them kind of goes on a different path too. Like Tandy sees Ty with all those checks around. So I guess that's more so their current situation, currently how he feels, because it's like, my brother's life wasn't really worth much. It's kind of like all these different checks signed out, and, you know, for Billy. So I guess it's a situation because of what went down, like maybe his parents got compensated in some shape or form because of what happened to his brother, and just, I don't know how to really 100% interpret that, just because I guess in his mind it's like he has to live his life kind of making up for the void that is Billy being gone. Maybe that's what that's supposed to represent. In Tandy's case, I think I understand hers a little more, because in her case it's like, oh, she's giving appeal to all these different people, because for her it's like, oh yeah, like she treats herself like poison, because she's giving pills to all these people, even Liam. And what do? They pass out or die. I think that's how Tandy kind of sees herself, and that maybe that's what, so like with Ty's situation, like I said, maybe that's what it is, just a long run of things. Like, it's like I have to be the one to kind of, everything that was Billy, like maybe that's all those checks are supposed to represent all that he did was going to do with his life, all that the value of his life, and then that Ty has to stack up to that value to make up for not just his own life, but the fact is the life that Billy no longer gets to live, because in his mind it's his fault. So maybe that's what that is. That's how I'm interpreting it. I'm sure there's multiple ways you could potentially interpret that. It could also be like, maybe these checks are all signed a certain way. Like I said, going back to it, like that's just all Billy's life was worth. So it was just interesting perspective on things. And then they both touch the glass on opposite sides and then wake up. So interesting things that kind of come up along the way. We do have Tandy actually going to Detective O'Reilly and kind of explaining everything. But that was after O'Reilly had already talked with the corrupt cop that killed Billy, and he ends up handing her the dude's ID and is like, yeah, it was a mugging gone wrong. And O'Reilly's like, what? No, it wasn't. It's like, yep, just let it go. The case is done. So at first I was like, oh, is it because does that kid secretly work for you or something like that? He ran drugs for you or something like that. But then I was like, right, what is he? He's a spoiled rich kid, meaning his parents are rich. They have connections, and they probably just paid this dude off for whoever he works with and for, like there might be other higher ups in like law enforcement that trickled it down to him, like, yeah, just make this go away. So that's probably what that whole situation was. Like I said, because he can't report Tandy without admitting what he did. But the sad thing is, this does leave Tandy unprotected too, because that means at any point in time, like, he saw what Tandy did, so he might try to come after her again and try to do something even worse this time, because can't nobody do anything about it. And so it seems like that's what happens, because at the end, O'Reilly's talking to Tandy and she's like, is that it? And then she's like, yeah. And she's like, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. And she storms off. So at first I was kind of like, oh. But then I was like, no, like, she probably explained it to Tandy what happened. And for Tandy, it's just kind of like, she made the choice of like, okay, I'm going to trust it. She's like, I'm going to come out, I'm going to tell the truth, but telling the truth doesn't mean anything, because he's not going to get in trouble for what happened, because the case is shut. And, obviously for O'Reilly, it's frustrating because she knows the truth herself. So I'm sure she's going to try and find some loophole around it. Because like I said, it seems like they're setting her up to be a good cop, and obviously like not every cop, is going to be a balance in the show too, I think, between that angle of like trying to get justice, because it's like you have one dirty cop and now you have one good cop. So it's kind of representing that in light and darkness even more. So I think that's going to be the heaviest undertone for the entire show, I think. And I think that's such a nice thing, not just stopping it with Cloak and Dagger, but also like their respective lives and just certain things, elements within the story as well. So I'm curious to see, because now both of them are going to be kind of motivated by revenge. So I'm also curious, because now that she's not leaving, what does that mean about the Liam situation? Will she help out with that? Also, what happens between her and Liam? Because the thing is, I don't really know too much about Cloak and Dagger's like personal relationship, whether they're like a couple or whether they're just kind of like, is it more like, it's not even like a love situation, that maybe because their fates and lives are so intertwined that it's more like, it's more than love, that there's some deep connection that even they can't explain. I mean, I'm only saying that because each one of them is in their own respective relationship, and I think their situation would be kind of a complicated thing. I mean, especially because it's not like they can outright explain it to other people, because, I mean, they, like, Tandy tried with the whole Liam situation, but I mean, she hasn't outright told him everything. But I think maybe she'll feel motivated to, and maybe like Ty will kind of feel like that with Vito, because it's kind of like, he's kind of opened up to her already enough about the whole like curse situation, which is also interesting too, because like her aunt had that 3D printed thing that looks like Ty. I was like, what that's supposed to represent too. And it was like completely in black too. I was like, oh, that's such fascinating aspects to it. I don't know. I'm curious to see what this all means going forward, because as we see at the very end, they do meet, because Ty's like, he ended up miraculously, maybe subconsciously he didn't realize it, like, oh, we're going in the same, I mean, maybe just serendipity, but like, he's probably walked past that church before, but he didn't know the connection there. It's like, oh, that's where Tandy's is, because that's in his vision, that's the church he was at, so maybe that's what that was. Or maybe it's just kind of like, oh, we just subconsciously, he happened to be walking Vita home in that same direction or whatever, and that just, I was like, oh, yeah, we're passing this church, like, oh wait, oh crap, this is it, so I don't know. Me very excited to see what the next episode has in store now that they're kind of like finally sitting down and potentially talking in the next episode to find out everything, especially kind of because obviously once again it's like that vision quest has kind of changed both of them, because now it's kind of like, because it's not even just about their own situation, they've seen the other situation. They kind of like Tandy she doesn't know all the details, but on some level she knows what Ty is going through. And then, you know, Ty knows on some level, like, Tandy's trying to run away from something. So it's like, it's kind of interesting. And I guess it adds another element, kind of a human element to it, too. Like, whereas, like, people are not as empathetic. Their situation allows them to be more empathetic, not just towards other people, but even with each other. So once again, kind of going back to the thing of, like, they understand each other on a deeper level that they probably wouldn't be able to with any other person, because together, their whole thing, their powers and everything seem like it kicks into overdrive when they're together. It's powerful enough on its own, but it feels like it's even more powerful when they're together. So, oh yeah, because I just thought about it too, because I was bringing the whole thing up about, because it's something I brought up last episode, dude. It's like, because I was bringing up the fact is that rich kid knows what Tandy looks like and her whole deal, but it's like that cop still knows what Ty looks like, and even the fact is that Ty came after him with a gun. But I don't know whether he'll think that's real or not. The fact is that Ty just disappeared. Once again, there's this whole Tandy situation with the dagger. It's like you can't really explain that either. So I'm like I said, I'm very interested to see where all that kind of takes us going forward next week. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.